Greetings. This is going to be kind of a two-part video. My last video I brought up the 1985 Valentine's Day triple murder of Cassandra Rundle in Colorado Springs and her two children. Not only was there a triple murder, but the two females were abused in addition to the murder. Please stay to the end of this video so I can give you the numbers if you know something about that case. The case was brought to my attention again. I remember very well back then when it was a big story, front page story. But it's been forgotten until a few weeks ago. A friend of mine who has a relative who was related to one of the children that was murdered brought some new information to my attention, possible person of interest, that kind of thing. So I just want to say that I have contacted the Colorado Springs Police Department police chief, and he has assured me that he has a cold case detective getting into the case and following up on this potential lead. So that's been done, and I'll go on with the video now. You know, I think the Lord brings people into our life for us to learn from. I think some are good and some might be evil. Recently, I've been fortunate to have a number of good people brought into my life. And I'm going to speak to two of those now. Excuse me, or about two of those now. One of them has to do with this very case, Cassandra Rundle and her two children, 10-year-old daughter, 12-year-old son, the two women also abused during the triple murder on Valentine's Day. I discovered a new YouTuber, and I think she's fantastic. She has a new YouTube channel. She's only been doing this for about 4 months. She does great research, and she did some nice research on the Cassandra Rundle case. So I would encourage everyone to go to Altitude Crime Podcasts. And this particular case is under number 13, and I think it's called Colorado Springs Murder House, or something to that effect. But anyway, it's Altitude Crime Podcasts, and it's number 13. It has to do with a murder house in Colorado Springs. It directs you and explains to you much more than I did about this case. So I think the young lady that's running that channel and I are going to get along really well. We've been emailing back and forth. I'm very impressed with her research, and I think she's going places. So stay tuned. Just in case anybody out there knows anything about that case from all those years ago, you know, maybe it's time to get it off your chest. I doubt that I'm talking to the murderer, but maybe somebody knows something, like I've said on other cases. So I'm going to give you some numbers here at the end. So that's the first person. Altitude Crime Podcast. Go find her. The second person I think will surprise some of you. And I'm just going to go right into a short little video that I did yesterday. So it's kind of self-explanatory, and I'll touch base with you as soon as the video is over. So let's play that video like right now. So, you look like an interesting character. Here we are in the middle of nowhere. Tell me just a bit about the travels you've been on the last maybe few months.
Few months. It's been interesting. It's been a wild ride. I've been in, I want to say, about 7 or 8 states in the United States here. happening in on a bunch of true crime cases. I've actually been doing it for years, but this last calendar year, I've been focusing on a few different cases. One in Colorado, well, two in Colorado, one on the New Mexico border, a little bit of cult activity in Colorado, one in Tennessee, and I went and did some work in Idaho and Arizona as well. And let's just say it's been a wild ride.
So you mentioned some cult activity in Colorado. I'm from Colorado, and I'm somewhat aware of some of that. What can you give me? Whatever you feel comfortable saying about the cult activity? Was it a rural area, big city activity, or what do you think?
Yeah, we'll just say just a little bit southeast of Salida. There was a big cult called Love Has Won. You can read about it. You can find it. Just recently, actually in the last few months, I think 7 or 8 members of that cult went down, were arrested. And that cult leader, she went by the name Mother God. She left this earth and was actually being preserved in a unsavory way to us, normal humans. But you just got to look it up. It's a situation, and I think this particular cult went out to Hawaii, didn't quite have the chops to make it out there, brought it back to Colorado, and that was the beginning of the end for this particular group. And I actually have a good friend in Wyoming who had some close ties to this cult, lost a family member to it. And it's some heavy stuff, a lot of really heavy energy. And yeah, I did get a poke around on that. It was interesting, to say the least.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this, where you learned these skills. I know you were in the military early on. Did you learn some of those skills there, and what have you done to improve on those, and what all kind of skills do you have? What all exactly do you do?
Oh man, I started out as just a wild skateboarder, punk ass kid growing up, and in the mean streets of Wyoming, if you can imagine. So half cowboy, half punk rocker. Turned gypsy later on. But anyways, those ways and those riding trains and goofing off, riding skateboards down handrails and running from the cops, landed me in the Marine Corps. I got out of the Marine Corps in the first few years of the 2000s, and I pretty much hit the streets running around, rambling. I did a lot of surfing, and that kept that balance, that skateboard balance up, and snowboarding in the Rocky Mountains. And a lot of that rambling got me into the extreme sports. I could jump on a train one moment, I could ride a skateboard, get on a snowboard, get on a surfboard, and then I found a weird running passion about 10 years ago. I actually just finished a 5-year run streak today, on this calendar day. 5 years, every day I'd said I was going to run at least X amount of miles, and it's just the goal I set out to do. So I've been running for 10 years. I just got off a 5-year run streak. But some of the skills that I picked up along the way and in the Marine Corps, and actually being an extreme athlete, was balance and learning, how to navigate heights and fear, and going to a different place when you have to, when the stakes are high. So I've jumped out of planes and dove off trains nowadays, and it brought me into this true crime world, and with a unique skill set for climbing. Rock climbing is one of my passions now. I've been doing it for about 8 years. I do free solo climbs from California to Montana. I've climbed every crag in Wyoming, some with rope, some without. In the Rocky Mountains, quite a bit of work. I've got my own routes. A lot of hiking, climbing, running, ultra endurance, distance running. It's a mental game. So that's kind of, I've used those skills to get into this casework that I've been working on for years now, to be able to get into hard to reach places, to get new vantage points that maybe some investigators, some locals, even crowdsourcing internet people, personalities might want to know. What's it look like up here, Gonzo? What's it look like down there? I seen you under the water one day and I seen you on top of the mountain the next day. So it's all about vantage points in my life, and I use those skills wisely, I feel, and I put them to work for a higher calling, and that's kind of what led me down this road. But yeah, I've been all over the place tackling 5 or 6 of the top 10 true crime cases across the nation, from Delphi, Tennessee, Summer Wells case, just recently left there. The Suzanne Morphew case in Colorado has been my baby. I've been working on that case diligently, myself and a crew. We had about 300-400 man hours, boots on the ground in that case alone. Another one in South Fork, Colorado. I did some stomping around on the Vallow Daybell case, the Chris Watts case. I've been to those key points in those key places, from the Watts house to the Survey 319. And it's not that I'm a nosy Nelly, it's just that I feel like I can go into these spots respectfully with tact and use my skills to just give you guys a new point of view on things that you might not see with some major platforms. And a lot of times I don't document it. So I do document it internally. I don't put it out to the masses. I just don't have a film crew and a bunch of tech that's gonna help me out. And maybe in time we can get that out there, but right now it's been about the journey and trying to help others. It's been paramount.
Cool. You know, and honestly, I think most people watching this probably know quite a bit about you. I'm going to ask you one question. This was asked to me years ago by one of my daughters for some of the things that I had done in the past. What, with all the crazy things we've seen you do and know that you do, what actually scares you? What's your biggest fear?
Oh gosh, fear is it's an interesting one. I think when you do these extreme sports and you tap into that wave, your tolerance for fear becomes a lot higher. There's actually analysis tests where you can hook up and you can find out that your tolerance for fear is way bigger than the average Joe's. Not saying that I have all of that. I just think a lot of these situations that I put myself in over the years has actually taken me to the top of that mountain and dropped me off with no gear. So yeah, fear to me, I would say I've always broke it down like this. It's like rodeo, like a bronc rider, you know, a bull rider is no different than a big wave surfer, and I've done both. You're not trying to own the bull. You're not trying to tell that bull, heel, stop, lay down, quit, I'm done, I tap out. You're not trying to own the wave. You're not trying to say, hey, point me this way. You're trying to flow with it, with the energy of the bull or the wave. So I think if you can flow with it, you don't get too razzled and stay in the moment, completely humble that you are just a little speck on this earth, on this rock that's flying through outer space at breakneck speeds, and we're flying through the galaxy, dodging asteroids. We can come back to that just humble moment of being on a wave, on a bowl, on a board, on a train, whatever it might be, and just flow with that moment. And I think we can set fear aside just to flow with that energy. It's all about energy to me. So that's kind of how I've always broke it down. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true.
Cool. Okay, now a selfish question. I don't think we're really fooling anybody. This was probably prearranged. Not that it was rehearsed, but just our meeting. Can you give me and the audience an honest opinion of what you actually thought of House Secrets?
House Secrets, you know, I'm a little biased because I feel like when I first picked it up and I read the back, I felt like automatically connected with Eddie, in a way of those danger zones, those, you know, infiltrating biker gangs. I grew up with a lot of biker gangs trying to recruit me. I still get that recruitment as being a biker. I lived on a motorcycle for a couple years, and I got to see some of this rough crowd firsthand my whole life. So just within the first 10 pages of the book, riding with Eddie, I just said I was just shotgun. I was just riding along with some of the trials and tribulations of this character. And I think once you get in and he slams the throttle to the floor, you have no choice but to just hold on for the ride. So yeah, the House Secrets book has just been absolutely, I won't say life-changing because I feel like I was already on that wave, but I just think that the character, the story, and the way everything was put together, I can't help that the author had to pull from some deep, dark caverns, you know, in his own psyche to put that together. And I thought that was special. And energy doesn't lie, and you can rip through that book in a matter of 2 days, and you're just gonna want more. That's just kind of where I went with it. I just felt really connected with it, and that cover work, and just kind of knowing some of the inner workings now, I'm just blown away. And I'll probably read it again and again, and I've actually given 2 copies away. I think that book walks and talks, and I want to see it do good things, so I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it. You've done as much for that book as anybody, Gonzo. I know you're traveling and you're trying to get home, so we'll wrap this up, bud. Thanks. You're doing the right thing, and I think everybody knows you're the real deal, bud.
Thanks, Perry.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. That little meeting was the first time I was face-to-face with Gonzo. We emailed back and forth some over these last few months, and we were going to have a quick coffee, you know, a 30-minute face-to-face. Well, it didn't turn out that way. 5.5 hours later, we broke it off because he was traveling and had to get home, I think. We could have talked another 5.5 hours or longer, and I'm sure we'll have many more meetings and conversations. I just want to say that, you know, many of us, me included at this point in my life, are basically armchair detectives, or whatever term. YouTubers, creators, whatever word you want to put on it. And we post our opinions and try to bring things to light. That's mostly what I try to do anyway. But I have to say, Gonzo is boots on the ground, man. He's been out there for a long time. He explained a little of it in that video. But in that 5.5-hour conversation, I learned so much about him, and I shared a lot about myself with him. And we know enough about each other right now that we have to be careful. I'll leave it at that. We're both have been into motorcycles. We're both into music. And of course, we're both into unsolved crimes. So I hope you enjoyed my little quick interview. I just kind of hit him up. I said, "Can I put you on film for a minute?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And that's what you got. So I just learned some of the extreme things he's done, and some of them you are aware of. You've seen them. But some of the things he told me were unbelievable. Some of the places he's gone, some of the people he's been face to face with would scare you. And so I would just ask that we all pray that he remains safe, because I'm sure he's going to continue. He's the real deal, I guarantee you. He's the real deal. So those numbers, I'm going to put them up now on Cassandra and her 2 children. And one of them is the Colorado Springs Police Department number. And one of them is the Pikes Peak Region Crime Stoppers number. So if you know something about that 85 case, that triple murder and worse, maybe it's time to call a tip in. On the Crime Stoppers number, you remain anonymous. But I guarantee you, there's a detective in Colorado Springs right now going over that case, and it's a huge one. I know they interviewed 85 to 100 people on that, and they collected hundreds of pieces of evidence. And Altitude Crime Podcast can tell you a little more detail about that, so go see her channel. She's going places. And that's it for today.